Erased Destiny. Chapter 11. More valuable than the life itself. Clad in black pants and shirt, Tolpes waited for Merigold on the roof of his hut. He was fixing a loose rainfly, but his thoughts were busy with the expedition. He did not notice the girl hiding in the shadows. Only the neighing of his horse prompted him to take a closer look at the yard.
Here you are. Do you know that your camouflage does not work on animals?
I know, and that is why I don't hunt animals. I can mute my footsteps, change the appearance of the area around me. The worst is human body heat. Such dumpkins, for example, always sniff me out.
To be honest, I don't know any person or animal that could surprise a dumpkin. But they are so slow that it doesn't save them from anything. Shall we go?
Lead the way, please. I feel so excited, but somehow you do not. Do not worry, I will take care of bandits. You don't need to risk your life.
Merigold summoned black horses, and Tolpes thought that he should feel offended. 15-year-old girl was comforting him and convincing him that she could take care of the whole gang. Was it even possible? Tolpes looked at Merigold, riding horse next to him. She looked calm and happy, relaxed as if they were just having a night trip. He rode on Bolt as creepy black horses made him feel uneasy. Satisfied with shifting the responsibility of getting on place on the shoulders of someone else, Etienne watched the progressive graying of the evening. She took control over Merigold only for a moment to better understand the principles of the unknown mechanism that allowed her to save the girl's skin.
What is your plan, if I may ask? Surprise attack? Poisoning?
Too time-consuming. Nope. I am going to cover the camp with dense fog, surround it with my plants, and then assail bandits.
Have you undergone the scout training?
I haven't met a single seeker since I was born. No, all my skills are based on magic. Death's eyes allow me to see the energy of living beings. My camouflage is the manipulation of the shadow around me. Not light, as it is in the case of seekers.
Merigold listened carefully to what and how Etienne was saying. If she had never met the Seekers, how did she know how their techniques worked? Why did she say she had never met Seekers since she was born? Why not that she had never? Merigold was puzzled by Etienne's choice of words. It was as if Etienne had subconsciously spoken in a safe manner, impossible to question or expose by someone sensitive to untruths.
Sometimes you act like a scout. I haven't met many of them either, but you have similar aura of secrets surrounding you. And what role will you assign to me?
If you really want to do something useful, except of guiding me to the place, what is very useful already, you can stun those who escape my spells. And help me load bodies on the cart. In Sintra, you can settle the account with guards, so they do not suspect me more than they already do.
Twilight passed into night, and Merigold regretted that Etienne had not decided to attack in the daytime. Without turquoise eyes, and without a companion who could see better than her, she clashed with the branches hanging over the path. Tolpes adjusted his pace to match his younger friend's perceptual capabilities. Tolpes looked at Merigold, who was apparently planning to become a headhunter, something he too had once been tempted to do. Admittedly, a love of nature and solitude won out over the vision of easy money, and Lena knocked thoughts of dangerous escapades out of her newly married spouse's head. But in his thoughts, Tolpes often returned to the days spent on Mayor's training. Sometimes he regretted his decision to leave. Sometimes he considered taking on 1 or 2 jobs to finally properly equip their cottage to give Lena a gift. His earnings as a hunter looked so meager that if it weren't for Lena's fur earring, they wouldn't even have enough for flour. True, hunger never bothered them. They led a quiet and safe life outside the city, but Tolpes dreamed of wealth. About not counting every copper, about a stress-free visit to the city market, about stopping asking for the opportunity to earn anything. The town hall usually had some work for him, but even the journeymen got more for their work than he did. The only saving grace for hunters was the lack of hunting quotas, but culling animals for profit did not appeal to Tolpes at all. He looked at the girl accompanying him, smiling and full of energy. Merigold stood out for something more than talent. She seemed to chase risks, to pursue situations that forced quick action, that posed a challenge. He imagined Merigold taking his place in the biography, abducted from her home, forced to fight for survival in the mayor's training camp. A shudder ran through his body. Merigold, from his vision, was smiling at him, highly satisfied with the situation she found herself in. Well, she had already managed to organize the camp in her own way, taking the first place in all competitions and forcing obedience from her fellow peers. She was the one who occupied the best tent. She was the one who decided on food allocations. And she was the one who was sent on the first real mission.
Let's leave the horses here. It's not far.
They climbed a tree, growing on the other side of the road where the slaughterers had set up their camp. Merigold's attention was drawn to the women she saw in Tolpes' memories. The older one was drinking something, probably alcohol, from a cracked cup, while the younger one was arguing with some man using words she shouldn't know at that age.
Look, they captured a family. If you attack, they can kill the hostages. Can we first free them?
I am sorry, but I am not that good. Look, the hostages are well visible and observed constantly. Any movement in that R would alert all hoodlums. No, we have better chances if we attack according to my plan. That would create an opportunity for the hostages to escape. What is more, bandits would be occupied with our actions, what means that they wouldn't observe the hostages as closely as they do now.
Can we then modify your plan? You attack as you wish and I try to free the hostages, using the cover of the fog.
Do as you like. As I said before, I can handle them alone.
The girl jumped down to the ground and, hidden in the shadows, approached the camp. The unlucky family, tied to an overturned cart, was placed by the fire, closer even than the wine barrels. Not only did everyone see them, they often threw bones or other leftover dinner in their direction. No illusion was able to reflect a material object. Even a conjured tree with supposedly rough bark yielded to finger pressure. According to the plan, Etienne walked around the camp, leaving poison ivy along the way. The plant did not disappear after losing bodily contact with its owner, as was usual with this spell, but left alone it withered after a while. Therefore, as soon as Etienne returned to the starting point, she raised her hands above her head and casted the dense fog spell. The dry vapor clothed the bandits so tightly that they could hardly recognize each other. They could see at arm's length, and not much further. Tolpes took advantage of the fog's excellent camouflage qualities to jump onto the cart and get closer to the captured. Merigold's abilities aroused his respect, given the girl's young age even admiration, but he did not understand the motives driving her. Tolpes, if he had to choose between the bounty for the bandits and the lives of some family, would without hesitation have taken back the captives. Although he would happily hug the filled purse to his chest, he did not value it more than someone's life, not even complete strangers.
Watch over the captives, Greg. I don't like this fog.
The groan of a woman and then the scream of a child made Tolpes freeze. There were more men looming just in front of him than he could handle in hand-to-hand combat, so he covered himself with a holy derrick and waited for Merigold to attack. Tolpes scolded himself. He was lying in a wagon while a 15-year-old girl exposed herself to captivity. He should strike first, focus the rogue's attention on himself to make it easier for Merigold to act. The wailing of the child muffled much more than the rustling of the thick cloth. Tolpes crouched near the edge of the cart, waiting for a convenient moment to attack. He spotted his old bow and quiver of arrows, but didn't reach them. To arm himself, he would have to leave his hiding place, defeat 3 dewy donkeys, and leap over the campfire. Only the latter did not fill him with anxiety.
Are you out of your mind, Moran?
With broken legs, they will not escape.
But no one will buy them. Use your head sometimes, not only muscles.
Tolpes knocked on the board. Attracted by the noise, the bandit looked into the cart. He was hit in the head with a plank, slumped to the ground, and the torch fell out of his hand and went out in the dew-wet grass. Tolpes covered his body with a derby. He sneaked up on the man guarding the captives and snapped his neck with a jerk. He killed this one for abusing the abductees. Despite the groans of the aggrieved family, the hunter picked up the rustling of falling bodies, one closer to the campfire and the other not far from the road. With his stick, he hooked the leg of the third of the bandits patrolling the area. The man collapsed on the stumps, painfully bruising himself.
Cursed fog. Charm or what, Greg? Are you here?
Before he heard the answer, the man who was trying to get up was hit in the head with a board and lost consciousness. A squeal from a startled Merigold directed the hunter to the other side of the camp. The camouflaged girl, caught in half by the bandit, was willowing her legs helplessly, only to bounce off the immobile, huge body and thrust her sword into the older woman a moment later. Ivy wrapped itself around the younger one, who in the fog had confused directions and was walking toward the road instead of toward the cart. She groaned in surprise at the sudden onslaught of aggressive weed. Etienne glanced around the camp. She didn't notice anyone moving, except Tolpes, who approached her.
I think we have stunned everyone here. Are you okay?
I should be the one to ask that question. Goldie, I was worried about you.
Rather, about the captives. I saw your bow. It's lying there, next to the barrels.
The sight of the girl without a single scratch pleased Tolpes, less the blank, impassive look of her black eyes. He himself was not hurt either, but he didn't even think about it. He waited for Merigold to shake herself off, approach the captives, heal them, or at least cut their bonds with her sword. Meanwhile, Etienne was analyzing images that she collected during the battle. Etienne maintained control of her borrowed body. Despite the inexorably passing minutes, she experienced no weakness or visual disturbance. This pleased her even more than winning the skirmish. It gave hope for a challenging life ahead.
It's a gang of human traffickers. They were led by the woman you met in the forest. After the disappearance of her husband, she took over the family business. The cart looks damaged, but maybe it will make it to Sintra. Put it on wheels.
Don't you get distracted by the whining?
Tolpes searched for the right word. He didn't want to upset Merigold, didn't want to throw her off balance. It crossed his mind that maybe this is how she copes with stress. He reprimanded himself for his unrealistic demands. Her peers would never find themselves in a similar situation, and if, they would sit huddled in the bushes. He wanted to embrace Merigold, to hug her, to reassure her, but he failed to get close to her. The falling fog revealed bodies lying around, previously further masked by a shadow wanderer. A wall of unconscious thugs grew between the hunter and the girl.
Nothing special. I got used to it. On the battlefield, it is never quiet.
Tolpes noticed the leader of the gang sitting on a fallen stump. The precision of the blow inflicted on her, the strength and depth of the cut left no doubt. Merigold used her blade no worse than the warriors. In the heat of battle, Merigold spotted a dagger-armed person preparing to counterattack and neutralized her. Etienne restrained the wounded with Ivy. From her memories, she learned more about the people kidnapped and sold, mostly to the ghost city. and also loaded onto ships as forced sailors on the most dangerous routes. She viewed the gang's hideout, became acquainted with the middlemen in the human trade.
We need to inform the seekers. Maybe some people could be still saved, and if not, at least their torturers would get what they deserve. Once we cash in the reward, of course. 11 bodies. That's better than last time.
Tolpes defeated 3 people, Merigold 8, 9. The girl noticed that one of the men lying next to the wagon was not breathing. She decided to leave him in the forest, as the reward for a dead one was barely a quarter of that paid for a live one. Although she did not approach the wagon, she estimated its condition to be insufficient to transport all the ruffians. So she decided to leave the least worthy behind. 9 people, and none were killed. None suffered life-threatening wounds. Etienne pulled the bodies closer to the cart and started to loot their pockets. She looked around for possessions of significant value, money or locked caskets. Her search was interrupted by Tolpes, who pushed Merigold toward the cart in a decisive motion. He penetrated the illusion that the death adept had covered her body with even before the battle and rolled over onto the motionless body.
Could you free the captives first? Before you go back to looting the ruffians? Forgive me, but padlocks without a key I do not know how to open. For that, your magic sword can certainly handle the problem. Will you heal them or take them to a healer?
In your opinion, 11 people on 2 horses and a rickety wagon is not enough?
In my opinion, it is necessary to save the wounded first, then deal with the bounty.
Anger at the mayor compounded the irritation with Tolpes' behavior and led to an outburst that surprised even Merigold herself.
Sure, rather allow the thugs to escape. Do you think they will politely wait here until we turn both ways? How about you beat them for a change and I'll sit in the cart?
Tien brought the emotions of a nervous little girl under control. She covered them with the coolness usually reserved for the seekers, who had a real talent to getting on her nerves.
Thank you for your help today. You will receive your due share, and that will be the end of our cooperation. Now I'm going to Sintra together with the thugs, and you do what you like. Summoning an inferior demon. Summoning an inferior demon. Put the cart on wheels. Load the bodies on it.
Right away, our brightest lady.
Could you at least free them? Before you go?
He struggled to get his voice. Merigold's aura frightened him no less than his mount once had. He admitted the animal was right. This girl could terrify.
Magic swords are not for cutting metal circles. And I can't use lockpicks either.
Will you wait with loading bodies until I search the bandits? Surely one of them has a key with him.
I have checked already. No keys.
Then maybe.
A scythe appeared in Merigold's hands. Tolpes took 2 steps back. The wavy robe covering the girl seemed to him an out-of-body object, and the weapon something overly realistic. The silver inscriptions covering the blade made Etienne smile widely. The weapon discouraged Tolpes from further conversation. With one cut, the girl got rid of the entire bundle of metal cords. Then she cut down the carriage shed because the demons were unable to lift the heavy wooden structure. Tolpes put the child to sleep with powder and put a brace on his leg made of boards tied with string. Multiple displaced fractures threatened to amputate the leg, so the boy had to be taken to the city as soon as possible. The smell of sleeping powder reminded Etienne of the beginnings of Fidelis' care for Walia, and her own lecture on the harmfulness of using the powder on humans.
At the Crystal Palace, they have ointments to regenerate severed limbs, so they can handle that too. I know only one healing spell, and it doesn't work on fractures.
The second Tolpes approached the woman. Her dry, cracked lips were struggling to catch air. Blue spots covered her neck and pimples covered her hands and feet. As if the illness wasn't exhausting the woman enough, the bandit had broken her leg. Although in Maya, The boy's mother probably didn't fully realize it, because every now and then she tried to get up and walk.
We were going to a healer when we got attacked. They took all our money. I beg you. My wife. She is dying. Help us. Take us to Sintra.
What has she done?
Is it really?
What did she do?
The man stepped back, tripped over his own feet, and fell. He tried to hide behind the cart, but Tolpes held him down on the ground. Death. Merigold, walking toward them, triggered both of them to want to flee immediately.
This woman swallowed an extremely expensive poison that requires, among other things, scorpion venom and phoenix saliva to produce. A death sentence. For what?
While waiting for the answer, Etienne watched the demons loading the bodies onto the cart. She reinforced the structure, bitten by the teeth of time, with poison ivy. It remained to make sure that Tolpes would not throw an extra load on her pack.
We lived in the wide trenches. It's a couple of hours from here. My wife worked in a horse breeder's mansion. I don't know what tempted her to put the coin she found on the bedroom floor in her pocket. The master forced her to drink the poison. We immediately set off for Sintra, but we didn't get far.
This poison was worth more than a few fast horses. I don't think the breeder would keep it in wine barrels and drink it to any servant who compromised him with something.
Etienne did not sense false in the man's words, so this was the version of events presented to him by his criminal wife.
I thought it was something ordinary, like the juice of raw calamus.
From the juice, she would vomit. A few days of upset stomach, headache, maybe pale skin. Not blue spots and such hard pimples.
Tolpes was more interested in the antidote than in the sudden surge of herbal knowledge in a 15-year-old girl who had not had a chance to learn about the compositions and effects of rare poisons. He pulled Merigold aside, leaving the man despairing over his dying wife, alone.
My grandmother was an herbalist. She died recently. She left me bags full of herbs that I can't use. Maybe you can find what they need there.
Unless your grandmother worked in the mine as well, I won't find it.
I was once in a similar situation. If it were not for the selfless help of a few people I met, I would have died. Maybe someday I will tell you the whole story. What do you need?
Tolpes' imaginary debt to Etienne did not appeal, nor did the desire to save the woman, whose punishment pointed to drowning the breeder's children in a roadside pond. She turned her back on the hunter, summoned the magical steeds, and harnessed them to the cart.
It takes a minimum of 6 hours to brew the antidote. In addition to the things you can find in the forest and in the house, you need a dusty darkling. It is a fungus. It grows only in caves and mines, and powdered fluorite, and the liver of a fatty fish.
Fat fish, fluorite, dusty darkling. Anything else?
You won't be on time. Soon she will go into convulsions and die after a few minutes.
Opposite to the girl's words, the woman calmed down. She lay with half-closed eyelids, breathing quickly and shallowly, but less snarly. Tolpes stood in front of the cart. He spread his arms wide and said,
Please wait a moment. Take the boy on the cart. He doesn't weigh much, and I won't be able to carry him.
Let it be. I will ask the mages to teleport him to the palace.
Still being herself, Etienne rode off before Tolpes threw any more passengers onto her pack. She felt sorry for the boy who was about to become a half-orphan, and for the kind-hearted man, almost a widower. However, she understood perfectly well that for some crimes there was no other punishment than death. She herself had sentenced criminals to death, more than once and more than twice, much more often to dungeon or forced labor, seeker's supervision, exile, but sometimes to death. Even if Etienne wanted to revise the sentence passed on the woman, She was unable to read her thoughts. And none of those accompanying the condemned woman knew what had really happened at the horse breeder's mansion. The road they traveled was in good condition, fairly level and wide, so Etienne let go of the reins and took care of the boy's leg. She put a brace on it and slipped herbs under the material to prevent blood clots. She drank a power regeneration potion, just in case. She didn't expect to fight anyone along the way, but preferred to prepare for the case of forcing the city gate by force, persuasion, or trickery.